How's everybody doing? Hope you guys are ready for another episode of Reddit Paranormal Stories. We're going to get right into it. Our first story comes from the user Kales2233. Previous homeowner made a visit the night she passed away. So my wife and I bought a house in May of 2020. The house was built in the 80s and only had one previous owner before us. She was an older woman who kept the house in pristine condition. We're talking 80s appliance manuals still tucked away neatly in a drawer. The neighborhood kids would help her transport wood into the basement, as there are a couple of wood-burning stoves in the house. She would invite the neighborhood over for poker nights and always had aged bourbon on deck. From what I've gathered, she was loved in our neighborhood and very proud of her house. Also, fun fact, her daughter was apparently a medium and would offer readings from the house. She was older and injured herself, so she had to move into assisted living. Fast forward, and we've been in the house for 2 years. We had done a lot of remodeling and hadn't had any strange occurrences at that point. It was the middle of the night, and my dog, who sleeps in the bed with us, jumps up and starts barking and growling at the middle of our dark room. She had never done this and hasn't done it since. She was acting so strange that it got to the point where we actually walked through the entire house to make sure nobody had broken in and no animal had somehow gotten inside. Found nothing. After a while, we finally got her calmed down and went back to sleep. 2 days later, we're on a walk in the neighborhood, and a neighbor who kept in close touch with the previous owner, she would visit her and send pictures of our house with Christmas lights up, etc., informed us that she had passed away the night that our dog had her freak out. I'm convinced dogs are more sensitive than us, and the old owner might have come to see what we have done to the house, but it's also easy to look at that as a coincidence. Since that night, though, lights have turned on and off by themselves. This one door is always opening and closing itself. Another door has slammed shut twice, and this giant piece of furniture somehow moved on its own. My wife and I were preparing to host a get-together with old friends, and we turned a room in the basement into essentially a party game room, pong table, giant Jenga, etc. It's an unfinished room with a cement floor, so we were thinking cleanup would be easy if needed. We have this giant old recliner that is just really heavy. It takes both of us to move it. We had placed the recliner out of the way in the corner. A couple of hours later, we are cleaning upstairs. My wife and I and the dog are the only ones at the house. When my wife runs downstairs to grab some paper towel, she comes upstairs looking confused and asked if I had gained some muscle and moved the recliner on my own somehow. I hadn't, but the recliner had somehow been moved to the head of the pong table. The amount of nope I experienced in that moment, there's no explanation for how the recliner had moved. Overall, we haven't necessarily felt threatened and nothing has really escalated, so we're just kind of noticing and letting it go. But I thought it was kind of worth sharing. Definitely worth sharing. Thank you so much for sharing that insane story. Yeah, definitely let me know what you think of that in the comments. Crazy story. But moving on to the next one, we have user Professor Weirdo titled The Haunted Bread. Hello all, I wanted to start this off by saying that I am new to this subreddit, so if I do anything wrong or anything, please let me know. But anyway, I have a story for you guys. So for as long as I can remember, my family has had attachments. Nothing malicious at all. In fact, we are pretty sure that it is family that is sticking around, because we never feel like we're in danger, but every now and again we have small things happen that we figure is just the loved ones showing that they're still here. One of these things being tossing bread onto the kitchen floor. Yes, bread. Just earlier, I was talking to my dad and the loaf we had bought from the store flew off the counter and onto the kitchen floor. I know how silly it sounds, and we always find it funny saying, okay, we get it, you want a sandwich, before picking up the bread and putting it back. Other things have been pushed off the counters, but that's all we experience really. No violence, no footsteps, no voices. It's almost like the ghost is a cat. Well, thanks for sharing. That title, The Haunted Bread, definitely sounds like an unreleased Goosebumps novel. Pretty innocent, fun story there. Our next one is called It's 2:40 a.m. and Things Are Getting Weird by the user Pompous Forkhammer. I'm very cynical about the paranormal, but I'm posting here right now because I'm venting out my anxiety. I work a night shift. I live with an old cat. I was doing some advanced work for Monday, so I'm awake at my home office since 10 p.m. last night. I only noticed the time when something dropped literally in front of me, a roll of wrapping paper which was neatly stowed away on the top shelf. I thought it was just imbalanced or something, not enough to spook me to how scared I am right now, so I just picked it up and placed it back on my shelf. As I placed it on the shelf, my computer froze, and I knew that because I was playing loud music and it just hanged midway. So I unplugged it and went to my kitchen, a bit disturbed. That's when I saw my cat at the counter hissing at something at the air. She's never done this before, not that I'm aware of. I felt fear, I felt anxious enough that I grabbed her and dashed to my room, locked the door behind me. Right now my cat is by my door and she's trying to peek underneath. I'm cowering in my bed and just anticipating something. I feel as if somebody broke into my apartment, but I'm too scared to check. I heard more stuff falling from the office, but I'm not sure. I feel like I'm hallucinating, but I think someone is outside walking very quietly. I'm very anxious right now. I don't know what to do. The last time I was this anxious was during high school, and the only thing I did back then was sleep it off. I'm trying to sleep it off now, but between my heart pumping too fast and the coffee I just had an hour ago, I don't think I'll be able to anytime soon. Should I go and check? Should I stay put? But here's something fall and shatter. I'm calling the police. Well, I hope that one's going better than what it was. Pop his fork hammer. He commented about 3 hours ago. Still doing well. Experiencing a couple things here and there, but all around doing well. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into our final story for the night. Hope you guys are enjoying these. Please hit that sub button, like and comment. Follow me on TikTok and YouTube. Summer of 2020, Eastern West Virginia. Posted by user SufficientPhone216. I believe I posted the story here close to when it took place, but coming back now I can't seem to find it. Recently I've been thinking back on it as often, so I decided to reach out again in case anyone had a similar experience or any input on possible explanations. I'll try to keep the story brief while including relevant details. I still vividly remember these events. Keep in mind also I was raised Christian. I came to a conclusion religion wasn't for me and decided anything supernatural must not exist as a consequence. This was the thing that changed my mind. My friend and I were driving back to this house in eastern West Virginia. We both grew up in the area and had spent years driving up and down these roads. It was around 11:30 at night. We had just finished a gym session and fast food run. The night was warm and dark. We had the windows down, music up, driving fast on the back roads. Not many other drivers were out and we didn't see any cars throughout this event. Coming around the corner, our headlights swept over an old woman out getting her mail. Odd being near midnight. Naturally, she turned to look at us as we passed. As soon as her eyes fell on us, I froze in my seat. I was overcome with a sense of dread. I'd never been afraid of anything, but in this moment I froze in fear. I had a clear impression that something out in the woods had seen us and we drew its attention. Whatever it was felt big, powerful, and old. Not like a ghost. The best word I could think of is demon. There was a strong feeling that this thing desired us in some way, that it wanted to take us and have us, and that this would be a very bad thing. In the same moment, without either of us saying a word, my friend slowed the car way down, turned off the music, rolled the windows up, and straddled the double yellow line. We continued in silence for probably 3-4 minutes, going a mile or two until we turned off the road. This whole time, all my hair was on end. My body shook. I felt some being stare. It felt into my soul and try to reach for it. We turned off the road. The feeling of danger gradually faded away, and minutes later we parked into the driveway. We sat in silence for a minute, then I asked if he felt that. He said, yeah, I was so scared. We talked about what we felt. We both had the same impressions. I then got into my car, sped the whole way home, repeated the entire experience alone, and made it back safe. 2 weeks later, I was headed to his house, this time around 3 p.m. Bright summer day, passing through the same area. It happened again. Identical feeling. I drove that road every time I went to see him before that incident. In between the two incidents and many times since then, I've never had another experience. I can't write it off as some hormonal fluke, as we both felt the same fear without speaking about it. Has anyone experienced something similar? Does anyone have any idea what it could be? My best word for what I felt is demon, but I have no clue if that's accurate. All comments are welcome. Also, all apologies for the story being a bit long. Too late now. Well, that was definitely a creepy story. Thanks so much for sharing, SufficientPhone216. And that's going to wrap it up for the stories of the night. If anybody has their own answers on what's going on, go ahead and hit the comments. Make sure to hit that like button to support the channel. I hope you guys have a great night. Until next time.